What's going on, everybody? My name is VK. Welcome to another exciting Phenomenal Creations VFX tutorial, a channel dedicated to help everybody to learn visual effects in their own home in Adobe After Effects and Blackmagic Fusion. Today we have a really cool project that I have wanted to do for so long. It's a shot from one of my short films, and we're going to be simulating a realistic sniper scope, because we all want to do them, even if you're doing gaming videos or just want to put them in your short film. Here are some great tips you're going to learn in this video, so let's just skip the chit chat and let's jump in to this video to see how this effect you're going to see right now is pulled off in perfect glamour. Let's do this. Okay, let's get this show on the road. Let's see what the kind of footage we have. We have just a very basic winter forest environment shot. We're just playing around with the camera. So let's start creating this sniper scope look. In our project panel, we can see a couple of different elements. I'm gonna first bring up this kind of like a lens, top-down lens photograph. I took one of my camera lenses. And this is gonna essentially, the idea is to create the look like we would be looking down a optic scope, so kind of like that brim vignette kind of look here. So we're just gonna place this in the middle of our shot and work from here. First, we're gonna eliminate the black background of this element. So by changing this the blending mode to screen, we'll do that, but that will also take away all of the dark levels from the edges we want to keep. So after we have placed and scale it up to fit this size, we're going to be creating a new solid, and we're just going to call this vignette. And our goal here is to leave the middle, so where the scope is going to be built, see-through, and the edges are going to be darkened. So we're going to put this black solid underneath the lens element, so we're essentially back where we started. And now we're going to be creating a elliptical, like a circular mask from the middle, just to essentially make the center frame see-through. So by creating this elliptical mask, by holding Shift and Command or Shift and Control, we can make it a perfect circle. And from here, we're gonna be inverting this mask, so it's essentially creating a darker edge and not a darker center. So by putting this to subtract or using the inverted filter next to it, this is what we're creating. We're creating essentially this tunnel view where the edges are darker and the middle is see-through. So this is a good starting point to begin this entire thing. And then we can use also the feather for the mask options, just to fade us that little darkness and give it like a kind of like a cool vignette look also to the middle image. From here, we're going to be creating a new adjustment layer, and here is where the cool stuff is started to build. We're going to first create it like a lens color burn effect here. And this is just to colorize the edges of the optics just a touch, to simulate like an optics light refraction kind of look. So we created an adjustment layer and a circular mask with a little buffer on the left and right and the top side, you know, just like half an inch. I know it's not translated as inches on the screen, but you know what I mean. So, and we also subtract that, and we have to remember to put this behind the lens vignette layer. From the Effects and Presets panel, we're going to find the Curves Adjustment effect. We all know this effect. We all know it. We love it. It's really cool. So here is the first thing we're going to be doing. We're first going to drop down the opacity, and not the opacity, the exposure. Remember to reverse the layer. So we're actually just affecting the edges here. And now we can see that playing with the curves, we can see we're darkening those edges. And then by changing to the red profile or the red color channel and dropping that down, we'll kind of give it like this blue hint there. And I really like that. We can just also boost a little bit of the blues and so forth. Remember, a small amount goes a long way. We do not want to push this too over the top. Or absolutely, if that's your stylistic choice, then you can do that. If you're doing like a really futuristic type of sniper scope, I don't know. You have to play around to see what fits for your project. From here, now we're going to duplicate this because we want to use that same adjustment layer mask. But this time we delete the curves adjustment. We're going to change this to, or rename this to lens edge blur, because to simulate kind of like a depth of field effect, I want to use just a fast box blur effect here, and I just want to add a subtle little effective blur to the edges of that colorization, just to add that depth of field look. And from here we can play with the mask expansion, go a little bit back and forth to see how much blurriness and where we want it from the middle and from the edges, and play around with the feather. It's it's a smooth dance, just like the dance you took your high school crush to. It's gotta be smooth. At least we try to. So that is essentially the idea behind this process. We play around with the feather and this mask expansion for the blurriness. Okay, so we have the color down, we have the blur down. Now we can move to the next cool part. So we're gonna be creating another adjustment layer. I feel like this effect is only adjustment layers. And this is gonna be one of my favorite parts about this tutorial, the optics distortion. So now we're gonna be creating that really like a distortive look that these type of lenses tend to create when we're looking down at them, at least if you ever use binoculars or something like that. So put that also under the lens vignette. And now for the effects and presets one, we're gonna find a effect called optics compensation. This is a really, really fun effect to work with. The first thing we're gonna do is reverse the lens distortion. We can see the second option in the menu, and then we're just gonna be playing around with the distortion amount. So I just like to start something around the 70s. It's a great era-ish. And then also here I'm also adjusting a little bit of the lens blur opacity. But going back to the optics compensation, we can play around with how much of that edge we want to blur. But now we can see essentially that optics distortion happening at the side. And this is really the thing that, in my opinion, sells this effect really, really well. So play around with this, and you can make it as intense as you want to, or as subtle as you want to, really trying to serve the effect you're trying to achieve. So I love it. It's amazing. Okay guys, a short promo break. ActionVFX has been supporting me for years, is having their amazing VFX sale over the holidays, up to 40% off everything over their 6,500 VFX assets on their website. Is now on holiday sale. Go definitely check out that link in the description. Go check those sales out to get yourself a Christmas present. And don't forget to miss their 8 days of VFXmas, where they're releasing up to 40 free assets in the course of the next 7 days. Come back every day for the biggest holiday sale ever, get some free assets. Use the link down in the description. It's an affiliated link. You'll be supporting my channel if you are using that link. And go get yourself some amazing VFX assets this Christmas. Let's go back to the tutorial. Alright, a good foundation is built, and now let's go and work with this scope element. This scope element is from ActionVFX.com. They just dropped an amazing sniper scope pack, and I love these, and you'll be able to use this one as a courtesy from this tutorial. They come in two parts. They have the scope and this illumination layer, where you can make the center target or the center crosshairs glow in a red color, and they have this for all of their crosshairs. Definitely check them out on their website, but you will be getting this one free in this tutorial as a courtesy from ActionVFX. So let's go ahead and drop this in, and we're gonna drop this also underneath the lens vignette to begin with, but actually we're gonna be dropping this under the lens optics distortion effect as well, because it really helps selling that, because then it's stretching the same way as everything else. So do that, and that will just add that little touch where the edge numbers are distorted as well. And now the next thing we're gonna do is it's really sharp. These are like 8K files. So by giving a little fast box blur here, just to a little bit blur them out, will help it blend to the scene, because then it matches the focus and sharpness of the rest of the footage. Also really good detail to keep in mind when you're working with VFX. This doesn't seem to be in the middle, so let's go ahead and reposition that into the middle there. And so we have a really convincing effect here, but there's a couple of things we can do to essentially improve this, or give this a little style, if you will. So what I want to do here is, first, I want to essentially accentuate the vignette on top of this effect. The lens element we added in the beginning is really bright on the right side, as you can see. and I just want to make that a little bit not so punchy. So I'm creating a new, like a circular mask. Feels like we have done a million of these now. And just on a black solid, and we're gonna reverse that and feather it out. And this could also work as the standalone vignette if you would not want to use a lens element. But it's just gonna play with the opacity here just to make the edges a little darker. So it kind of like just doesn't make it pop so much. But it's really a stylistic option and thing to play with. Now let's go ahead and do something cool for this illumination crosshairs. I want to make it glow a little. You know, just this is like a stylistic thing I want to try out here. So I'm gonna add a glow effect on the illumination layer. And here's what we're gonna be playing around here. So let's go ahead and zoom in so we can see what we're doing. Let's first create a really tight core glow. And we need to also make sure that you're on off final quality so we don't create this mosaic blur when we're working. So we're going to be playing with a threshold so we can really find a good threshold that represents the colors of the glow. And for me, between the 20 and 30s worked pretty well for this one. And then we're just going to be playing around with the intensity and the glow radius to try to find a good match. But we might come back to this to change these parameters when we're trying to blend in to the scene. Then we duplicate this layer to essentially make it even larger. So now this is the time where we're playing with the radius just to try to make that glow around the crosshairs even greater. It is quite intense right now, so we don't okay, yeah, it is way too intense for our liking. So let's go back to the effect here and just dial down the intensity a little here. But this is how VFXs look like. We have to try out, maybe do something a little too extreme so we can dial it back down, but don't be afraid to go back and change something. So this looks way better already, but we don't really see the glow before we put a blending mode here, and glows don't tend to work really well on transparency, so we need to create a background for this. So we're going to use a solid composite effect, which is essentially just creating a solid in the effects panel. So we're going to make it black so that we can go back to the sniper scope when we go to the main comp. Then we're going to put this to the screen blending mode just so we can take away the blackness or the black layer. And let's remember to the sniper comp and not to the vignette there. But doing this will also take away the black scope element. So now we need to essentially just copy the scope numbers and put that behind the illumination. And let's just line this up. You could have also done this in the main comp. You don't have to use a pre-comp that as I did, but you do how you will. This works the same. So now we have like a light, like a glowing red crosshair kind of thing, and I think it looks pretty cool. I think it adds to the scene we're trying to create here, and I really personally love it. And there's so many ways we can customize this. And for the next part, I'm just gonna be creating a little bit of like a field of view effect, because when we're looking down a sniper scope and our eyes are focusing on the numbers and the crosshairs, we're not able to focus on the outer brim of the lens element we can see. So we create another circular mask and we subtract it, essentially inverting it. We're feathering it. We have done this a million times already. You should be professionals at this by now. And we're going to be adding a camera lens blur to this effect. And you can see when we're turning up the blur radius, the outer edges are now blurred up. So we're going to be playing around with this a little. We're not going to do just this. We're going to go to the mask expansion by hitting double M. And now we're going to play with essentially the radius of the mask expansion, because we only want the real outer edges to be blurred out. But the closer we get to the middle, the more sharp it will be, trying to simulate how a field of view focus would work. So here we're just playing around with the mask expansion, the feather, and the blur radius of the effect, just trying to create, this simulated field of view effect. And then also what I want to try to do is I'll go back to the overlay vignette. I doubled it, so I duplicated it, so make it a little darker. And then I also adjusted the mask so that the right side and the left side would be matching you know, in luminosity, because the right side was way brighter than the left side. So yeah, and now we are pretty close to a final effect here, and it looks pretty cool, I gotta say. And there's so many things you can do to customize this effect even further. We could have put the scope elements also underneath the lens edge blur and lens color burn to also accentuate that. But you know, there's like there's just like an infinite possibilities to play around with this effect. It's really cool. And since we're like in a winter scene, you could also add some like a cold breath type of elements, which also you can find on ActionVFX if you want to. And you can see like essentially like those condensated blasts of or puffs of air, which is really cool. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you found it likable, enjoyable, and educative, please hit that like button and drop me a comment. Tell me your thoughts, your suggestions from the future. I'll make sure I read all of them and see if I can make your suggestions become reality. Okay, my name is VK. Please stay creative, keep learning new things. I'll see you guys in the next video. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, ciao.